ClientTrack is a cloud-based system which is hosted in Microsoft Azure Cloud Services. Today, what I'm showing you is our training environment that we use for demo purposes, for training purposes, and to build and test new features. When you first log into ClientTrack, you land on the most recent client's dashboard that you are on, and the first thing you see on the dashboard is the demographic information right up here about the client. This can be modified with whatever data you need. Then the second section is the family members, what family members are tied to this client. On the dashboard, you can also see the enrollments. Currently, there is no enrollment, but we will be adding one. Then you can see the services, the work history information, English as a second language program scores here, and you can see their health screening. You can see their referrals information. You can add as many sections as you want on the client's dashboard. But to start the demo, I want to use this existing client's information to do an intake just to save the time. But if you are working with a new client, you start with doing an intake from starting the intake workflow. When you start the intake workflow, it shows you the steps that are in this workflow. You do a client intake with entering their information, then go and search for duplicates and add their family members. We do a quick educational assessment, and then we see what programs they are eligible for. Today, to save the time, I will use existing clients' information to start the intake workflow, and when I do that, it pulls the existing client's information with the data points that we are collecting. This is all very flexible. You can add fields and remove fields very easily if you need to. At the first section, we have the identifying information about the client. Then we have their contact information and address, their immigration information with their case number, alien number, immigration status, and we have if they are a secondary migrant coming from another state. If we say yes to that question, it will ask us information about their prior state. If we say no, it will not ask the information, and we have some demographic information. So when we close and save that, it will take us to the next step of the workflow, which is adding family members. Currently, there are 2 other family members added to this family, the spouse and son. But if you want to add another family member, we can just click Add New Family Member, and it will bring us the same intake form that we used. For example, if I want to add another client here, first of all, it pops up with the similar names, just to make sure you're not entering a duplicate. If people have a similar last name or first name in the system, you can see that the system will pop up if you want to select any of those. But if you're sure that this is not a duplicate record, you can ignore that error and click Next. When you click Next, you can enter their date of birth. And when I click Next, it brings the address from the principal applicant's information, and all I need to choose here is the relationship of this client to the head of the family. For example, I can say this is another son, and when I click Next, it again takes most of the information from the PA's dashboard by default, just to save some more time. For example, the case number can be the same, but alien number, since it is very unique to every client, it will be blank. You can enter a new alien number. It will reformat it into our standard format. Just like that, it will add another family member to this family. Here is the new family member, and when I click Continue, it will take me to the next step of the workflow, which is doing a quick educational assessment. As you can see, for the 3 previous family members, an educational assessment has already been done. I will just do it for the new family member that we added. We'll say no formal education and click Save. And the last step of the workflow is bringing us a list of all the programs that we have. And here in the last column, it says this particular case is eligible for these programs and not eligible for some other programs. If it says Pass, the client is eligible for that program. If it says Fail, the client is not eligible for that program. Once it is done, then we start enrolling them into the programs. I will enroll this case into a refugee cash assistance program. We have a whole menu for the cash assistance programs, the RCA or the refugee cash assistance enrollment menu. When I click add new, it will start a similar workflow that I can choose the enrollment date, and from the dashboard it picks the 240th day of this case. That way I know that by this date the client will not be eligible for this program. And if the client is a secondary migrant, I can still fill some more information about that here, then what other state the client came from. If not, I'll just say no, it will not ask me for that information. The program is by default selected as the Refugee Cash Assistance Program. This is the head of the case. And what family members do I want to include, I can just check those. So I will just include the spouse to this case and click next. When I click next, it was part of the Refugee Cash Assistance Program. We need to make sure that they are eligible for this program. So here are some more questions asking about that. So for these two family members that are in this RCA case, I want to answer the questions about their age category. They are between the age of 18 and 64, and they are employable. I'll answer those questions and click next. Is the case in compliance with FACCP? Yes. Does the case have an earned income? If this is a new case, at this point, we basically most of the cases will not have an earned income, but some cases, if it's a follow to join case, probably their spouse might have an income by the time the client arrives here. So we have another functionality for to evaluate their earned income. If we say that yes, this case has an earned income, it will ask us for who is working in this family, all the family members or someone else who is supporting the family, and you can upload the paycheck stubs for that working member, and it asks what the total income for this particular case is. And that way, by entering the total income of the family, we can determine their percent of federal poverty level based on their income and case size. For example, if I say that this family is making $1,500 a month, ClientTrack automatically calculates based on the case size that I put here. If I put this is a case of 2, then in that case, $1,500 for the case of 2 will put them at 109.36% of the federal poverty level. But at this point, if this is not required, I'll just skip this and say the case doesn't have an earned income. Click next. And here, case managers can request the first and or the second check at this point. For example, if I want to request the first check for this case, I just select the service date as today, and I request their RCA check 1. And if this case has arrived in the middle of the month, this will be a prorated check. So this is a case of 2, and how many days are here in this month remaining that the client is eligible for this check? I would say 27, and based on our predefined rate, ClientTrack will calculate that a case of 2 with 27 days remaining in this month will be eligible for $459 for their first check. If it is the 15th of the month or later in the month, the sub-agencies can also request the second check for their refugee cash assistance, and they can also do it from the same screen. If I choose RCA check 2, this will not be a prorated, so that is blocked for me. This is a case of 2, and as soon as I put a case of 2, it will, based on the predefined rates, it will say that the case of 2 is eligible for $500. So I will request those 2 checks for this case at this point and click next. And in the last screen, I can just review this information and have the client, the principal applicant, and the spouse sign on the enrollment form using a mouse or a signature pad. and the case manager will also sign here and click finish. Both of the checks have been issued and they are ready to pick up. And next time when the client comes in to pick up their check, what the case manager does, he or she goes to here and click disburse and provides the client with the check. You can see the check information here and the disbursement date. The check number, since it has already been entered to the other menu, will be already here. And who is picking this check up or signing for this, you can choose the family members, or if it's a client that someone else is picking the check for them, you can select other adult, or in this case, I'll select the family member and have them sign here, then click Save. When you click Save on the dashboard, it will say that the check has been disbursed on this date. Now I will also enroll this client into an employment program so that later on I can enter a job for them. Another menu that we have is general for all types of programs for their enrollment. If I come to this menu, I can see that this client has been only enrolled to RCA program, but I can add new enrollments. When I click that, it starts an enrollment workflow. I can pick the program that I want to enroll them. For example, I want to enroll them to Wilson Fish Employment Services. And when I click that, based on the predefined eligibility criteria, the system says that the case is eligible for this program. If they were not, here it will say fail, and you could click on it and see why the client is not eligible for that program. When I click Save, it will ask me that what other family members do you want to enroll in this program. I can select to enroll all family members at once, or I can choose family members one by one. I will choose the second option. When I do that, it will loop me through each family members by asking their name, that do I want to include this member into this program. I will say yes, I will not include this member, but I will include the spouse to this program. I will not include the child, and click Finish. It will take me back to the client's dashboard, where I can see, if I switch back to the PA's dashboard, I can see another enrollment has been added for this client. So this case is currently enrolled in RCA and in Wilson Fish Employment Services. So another option that I want to show you is the employment or the job placement form that our employment team can create job placements and tie it to which employment service this is under, or which cash assistance this is under. If I click Add New, I can search for a list of employers. We have a list of employers in the ClientTrack, but if your employer is not here, you can add it from this menu. But if the employer is already here, I will select one existing employer, and then I can tie this job to one cash assistance program and an employment service. So that means that which cash assistance this case was receiving when they got this job, and what employment services they were receiving when they got this job. If I click here, only the programs will show up that the client is enrolled in. I will select those two programs and select their job start date and put their position title. If I want anything with star is required, without it, it's not required. So I'll just put in the required fields here, and date employment recorded will be defaulted to today's date. Does the client have a child care? If who's providing the child care? If we say family and friends, we can have before and after school program, or daycare, or not applicable. I'll select that and click Save. Now it created one job here with the associated cash assistance and employment service. This is their first job, and this is how many hours they are working and how much they're making.